Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Sir, all right.
William wants to name, and I think you might.
Yeah. Sure, you know how that's, I mean, I think some of the time, like, you're right behind, like, the wrenches.
Yeah,
Extended period.
I can't, because I mean, I'm doing, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, all right, because they have a bunch of them were recalled for having.
They may or may not have gone to 70.
May or may not have. Find information, belief.
Yeah, I can do that for you, Dan.
All right, thanks.
You want to share a date?
No, because I'm gonna just, no, we're good.
Like I'm, use that as mine.
No.
Mark's here.
Well, he just wanted that.
Oh, we can say, look around, let's see. Julie, one here.
There you go.
In case we find a fair change somewhere. Right, we're really just not part of the new year.
If I get bored, I may have to do it with something else.
Did you turn the volume
Volume.
on?
Rich, you look rather fetching in fuchsia.
Huh?
You look rather fetching in fuchsia.
Or that's what he's trying to fetch. Not everybody can do that. They all pull that. Oh, my picture. Oh, yeah, I did get a brochure. There's Rich on that one. But you can be able to buy a 5-year thing. Yeah, $7 more. So what you're not sure. 7. Throughway tolls down
If I do that, I can't
to,
put that on my stuff.
You're good.
Easy
You're
pass.
good.
All right, okay.
no, you just, nobody has easy pass, so I'm trying.
Okay.
So they send you, are they taking cash out?
I thought they were gonna send us something, that's what my assumption was. They stopped that, oh, I guess sometime in early June. But that's what the throughway is going to.
So it's gonna be toll, cashless.
It
That's
costs like,
it's gonna be just like a mass bike, yeah.
but it costs more.
And what they're gonna do is they're gonna charge more for people that they gotta bill to get people to do the Easy Pass. Which gives government a way of tracking where you're going. They're gonna know where you always are. Hi, Mark. How are you?
Good, Rich. I feel like I'm being putting quiet time or
We
something.
got pointed out.
You didn't have to listen to the Beach Boys, so it's, did you?
I'm gonna put it up on my screen, man, with no sound.
Why did you,
What's the, you drove up to see
Website?
Second Squad.
I sent
Oh,
it on Saturday to all you.
All the way back.
Yeah, it's on the
No,
website.
he was, we couldn't do it.
That CD may still be in the car.
That was a long,
I think you went out, threw it out the window.
I think we did on the way back throughout the Beach Boys. Recording.
Thing is, I just didn't even hear it, it just plays.
That was a good trip, worthwhile trip.
Yeah, Ronnie even wrote that it was good. That was good, you know, whatever.
We went back downstairs to like take one more like lap around, look around. And all of a sudden he's gone. He buried himself deep in the shop again. He went off wandering, looking things.
We all set. Meeting order, distinguished fire district number 1.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence in memory of the deceased firefighters of the district. Roll call, please.
Ryan,
Here.
Dave,
Here,
Dan,
Here.
Rich,
Here.
Scott.
Here.
Okay. First item on the agenda for public session, we do have an email that if anybody from the public has any comments, they can email that in to the address listed on the website. Can you give that to me again? Is it yours, the admin assistant at, that would be adminassistant@ngfd.org. Any public comments now? None.
We had asked for him, we were
We'll
gonna
do
do it
all
at the end of the meeting.
Okay. Fire District Committee for the WFD building upgrade. Rich French, Dave Wilson, Joe Casino. So Rich or Dave?
I know that we had our department meeting the other day and it was pretty much on hold until we get past all this stuff, so it's just maintenance right now.
I took a quick walk through, about a week and a half ago, upstairs and down, and nothing jumped out at me, and nobody was around. Nothing jumped out at me that needed immediate attention or repair. All good.
All right. Did Joey Casino submit anything?
He did contact me and said he didn't really have anything to report the same, and that's it.
All right. Thank you. Department of President's reports. Since we're at DFD, we'll give Wine and Skill the opportunity first. Did anybody from WFD submit anything?
Yes, it's in Dropbox. It's their annual fund drive letter that's in Dropbox.
What folder is that under?
Wine Skill President.
Can only see
Here's a hard copy of it.
Number 6.
number 6. Thank you. Only the few characters showing.
Here's a
All
hard copy.
right.
Pass it
So
around.
similar to.
Same as last year, paragraph.
Oh, you're the. Why don't you give a?
That's it.
All right. I think it looks fine. Same as last year.
Pretty much. Little different pictures.
Looks good. Any questions for? For Dave? Why don't we, is PJ here? PJ's still there. All right. Because we have ours, but I don't have the draft yet. Ready to show the board, but it's the same as last year, so we're going on Jeffrey's still still.
You guys did approve it like, I think it was a meeting or two ago, you proved pretty much the same thing. You didn't have the statistics. You
Okay.
did, yes.
On the Zoom meetings.
You approved it for both departments. You just said you didn't have the statistics yet, but
Okay, so we don't need to really take action on that then, if we already did it. Okay. PJ, I know that's wine and skills, but Bob mentioned that a couple meetings ago, the board free skills and wine and skills. Well, he's not showing that to you to approve it, but for the fundraising
Oh, okay.
campaign.
All right.
Okay, so we definitely don't need to take any action for wine and skill or the free swell.
it was approved.
Okay, all right. So both departments can go after that. Anything else for wine and skill? The president, civil line? Okay, DFD, let's see.
Yeah,
Bob, you want to go through the report that? I'm sorry, I'm having trouble for it's just the fundraising one, right? For the wine and skill president's report?
Yes, that was it for wine and skill.
Okay.
That's for the free skill.
All right, PJ, DeFreezeville's president's report?
I submitted a building use for August. It's not really a building use. We're gonna be hooking up again with, sorry, the drugs that got my brain.
Jen Massey?
Jim Massey again. We're trying to look at August. I put in for 2 days because we're not sure which day. One's a Wednesday, one's a Thursday. Food and potentially school supplies this next time. Again, we'll be doing it all out to pavilions, just want to make sure the district's aware of it, and if there's no issues. The last 2 times it worked out great. We have 2 new members. The folders were dropped off at Bobby's office, I believe, over the weekend. As of right now, we're keeping the office area closed because this COVID is crazy. Trying to keep it to a minimum. We did have a real monthly meeting. We got utilized the pavilion. We had 33 members in attendance, and social distancing and mask worked out real well. And I want to thank the board for the approval of new lights in the radio room. I got a chance to install the lights. The dimmer circuit I might be working on tomorrow, but I think it's, while we were there the other night, and we noticed that I think it's the different lens that help even though they're the same wattage output. They have more of a frosted lens, and it was a lot, not as super bright. It wasn't noontime looking directly in the sun. So, like I said, tomorrow, if things work out, my truck's got to go behind for some service. So I figured I could hang out here and do that. So I'm doing something and getting that done. So the dimmer circuit will be hooked up as well. That's the end of my report.
Great. Frenchie, here's you've got one application, there's the other one. There's the second. All right, well, we're looking at those and they're circulating. Why don't we, does anybody have any questions on the facility use for the pavilion, for Integra HR, for the food and school supply drive on either August 26th or 27th? Question. All right, entertain a motion to approve that.
I'll make it.
Made by Brian, second by Dave. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's approved. Why don't we go on with the agenda while we give folks a chance to take a look at the 2 membership applications. Did you have anything else, PJ?
No, that's all I have. Thank you.
Approval of prior month's minutes. Questions, comments, additions, or deletions? Entertain a motion to approve. Scott, second by Rich. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Minutes are approved. Treasurer's report, Sean.
shall have a copy of the treasurer's report along with the attached bank reconciliations for our three funds. And checking account, general fund, and reconcile balance as of the end of June 30th of $57,033.62. We earned, excuse me, 26 cents worth of interest on that account. Year to date, we earned $376.06 on the general fund checking account. The bond fund had a reconciled balance of $3,723.48, earning 3 cents worth of interest for the month and $125 for the year. That account, we pay the principal and interest in September. That account will basically be closed out. And then our money market had a reconciled balance of $2,156,681.38. Of that amount, $841,133.52 for the general fund, $1,108,531.22 is capital reserve equipment, $154,820.28 capital reserve building, excuse me, capital reserve repair, $52,196.36. That account has earned $17.75 worth of interest, and year to date, $290.72 worth of interest on the money market account. And then the subsequent documentation is just supporting bank statements and reconciliations and a copy of the list of all the checks paid out of the general fund. Same as the last 5 years.
All right, any questions for Sean? No questions for Sean. Entertain a resolution to accept the treasurer's report. Made by Rich, second by Brian. Roll call.
Brian.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Dan.
Aye.
Rich. Scott. Good.
Approval of the current month's invoices.
Okay, the invoices for the month of July total $157,205.52. The most significant one that jumps off the page is paying the second payment on that SCBA purchase, about $85,000. Also, there's about $33,000 for the 2% funding, and those checks have already been cut. I just did ignore the one for Ron still, and I think PJ that.
I got mine here today, thank you, Sean.
Any questions on the invoices? Entertain a resolution to approve them. For payment. Ryan, second. Second. Give that one to Scott. Roll call.
Scott.
Aye.
Rich.
Abstain. So, I got an invoice.
I got it. Dan.
But
Aye.
Dave.
Yes.
Brian.
Aye.
Resolution carries. Okay, commissioners had a chance to review the two applications for membership from DeFreesville, Kenneth Shellline and Benjamin Kissel. Any questions or comments from the board?
The chief's comfortable with them.
All right, entertain a resolution to, motion rather, to approve. Made by Rich.
Second.
Brian? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Both members are approved. Congratulations, Chief and President, 2 more members. Correspondence, Bob. Received and sent.
Yes, we received notice on FASNY's annual meeting on 8/8/2020. The Association of Fire District, their affairs, Bolton for June and July. Key Bank FDIC assets ending in 5/29/2020. Received a check from me in the amount of 92.52 for a purchase on the credit card by mistake. Received a check from New York State Association of Fire Chiefs. It was our refund of $540 for the convention. That was for registration for the convention that was not held. The executed Suffin contract and performance bond for the second piece of apparatus, we received that. We received a NICEF workers' comp review request for our annual salary audit that they have to do for the district staff. That was forwarded to Sean. And we also received in the mail an application from a resident that lives off of Sunset Road, off of Blooming Grove. She wasn't aware of the process that she had to go through the fire department, so I contacted her and then I forwarded that to DeFreeseville for action on that. That was received. On sent, there were 4 planning board letters that were sent in regards to projects and developments in town. One was for Hidley Estates, the other 573 North Greenbush Road, one for 490 North Greenbush Road, and the last for 271 North Greenbush Road. They were sent by the respective chiefs.
Any questions? Bob? Anything else you need from us, Bob, or any of that correspondence?
Nope, everything's good.
All right. Old business, hose and nozzle quotes for testing. You got that, Bob, or is that?
I do.
the chiefs?
Yep, nope. The hose and nozzle testing, we received 2 bids. One was from Safety First Fire Equipment and the other was from Waterway. Clearly, Safety First Fire Equipment was pretty much significantly below Waterway. So my recommendation is that the board approve the hose and nozzle testing, and we use Safety First Fire Equipment. We did use them last time.
You want us to take action on that?
Yes.
All right, any questions for Bob on that? Entertain a resolution to approve Safety First to do the hose and nozzle testing at what cost, Bob?
Well, it's it's going to be somewhere in the range of $5,000 to $6,000.
So entertain that resolution. Dave, second by Rich. Roll call.
Brian. Aye. Dave. Aye. Aye.
Resolution carries. Seal coating for DFD and WFD. So there's 2 quotes here, $8,350 and $10,300 from Prestige. The lower one is from Wheezy. Want to give any additional information, Bob, other than
We used Louisi last year or 2 years ago when we did the seal coating. I mean, we were happy with them. They'll be doing seal coating and the follow-up striping. We already have dates that are planned also for both the hose and nozzle testing and this, if approved by the board right now. And the chiefs and the presidents of the fire companies have been notified of these dates too. Seal coating, there's more coordination, of course, because you can only do half of the station and then a day later you do the other half. But we were happy with Louisi.
When they do that, and they look at the top parking lot, the second entrance, it always seems to be off somehow on how they stripe it.
Mhm.
Instead of just the walkway area, they tend to go too far one way or too far the other way if you gain a parking spot or something.
Could you communicate and work with Chief Mason on that? He's going to be the point of contact. So
You know what I mean, Mark? The way it's always wider than the walkway.
That's the one around the end.
Yeah, the back way into the old commissioner's room.
Yeah.
Because it seems like we could gain something on the other side, maybe.
Sure. it helps a little bit.
Yeah, something, just make it the same as the walkway.
We had discussed this briefly at last month's meeting, and it struck me after our discussion, so I made a suggestion to the chief afterwards, and I don't know if Mark's going to throw it over the board, that on the response spots on this station along Far Drive, instead of having them be 90 degree to the sidewalk, that we put them at an angle, so that people coming in can hit them better. We've got a couple of people that have difficulty with that. As it is, we have one that insists on backing in during calls. he gets here quickly, and then he takes 6 or 7 passes with his vehicle to get it in the spot, right? While the people are sitting in the driveway trying to park to get on board the apparatus. I think if we had just angled in parking, it would make it a lot quicker, more efficient, and more effective. So I just throw it out, you know, it'll be a little bit more of a pain in the ass leaving, but nobody's in a rush leaving. So I just, you know, threw it out there as an idea. We probably lose 1 spot because you lose the wedge here or the wedge there at each end. So you lose one of those spots. But I think it would make it more efficient, more safe.
We lose more than that, than I think.
Yeah, well, that's,
I guess Bob is building committee chair and then William.
yeah, that's why I didn't want to just tell William to do it because I wanted to get other people's input.
I heard Rich talk about it last month, and I know that I think it does make sense because it's kind of, I'm surprised we haven't had a little fender bender out there where somebody's trying to cut around a car and hitting one of the other first responder cars, because sometimes it is tight making the turn coming in. So I think it would make sense to do that. It doesn't need to be like a real sharp angle, just a little kick. It makes sense.
And that way you lose 1 spot diagonally, and then just shift it a little bit.
All right, Chief,
I don't have a problem with that, that sounds.
all right, we don't need to take actions here. Who's the point of contact here?
It's PJ.
All right, we'll take care of that.
Thank you, Richard.
All right, entertain a resolution. Any other questions or comments on the ceiling before we vote to approve them? I'll make the resolution, if I can get a second, to approve Luizzi Brothers for $83.50 for reservations. Second by Rich, roll call.
Brian.
Aye.
Dave. Aye. Dan.
Aye.
Rich. Aye. Scott.
Aye.
Okay, that's approved. Chiefs reports, we'll go with wine and skill first. Mark?
New business.
Oh, I skipped right over new business. Surplus of WFD, SCBA and accessories, 13 SCBA and 14 masks. Mark, you want to tell us what those are?
Those were the ones that were still in the truck, leftover ones, before we could still on the other part, and a couple of the training ones. So that puts all the new ones in service now.
All right. And what are we doing with the surplus equipment?
We're gonna, I will attempt to either use Auctions International or we'll try and sell them to Dalmatian Fire Equipment in Colorado. That's where we sold the last batch to.
Any models in that batch?
No, just the harness, the pack itself, and then the master. It's, I think 14 or something, the 2000 masks we're now using the trees. So pretty much a mask for each pack.
All right, entertain a motion to declare that equipment surplus. Scott? Second by, what's it? Ryan? Okay,
Make sure
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Chief Mason, for your report.
All right, Jay, I didn't get my report out early enough. Usually we send it over, so Bob's got copies of it. He's gonna take a put out to you guys. Alarms for the month of June were 26, total hours were 128, total hours for the year 1302. Alarms for the year so far is 231, 174 fire calls, 57 rescue calls. 3 drills for the month, 56 hours, total 542. Average response time is 4.8 minutes. Average first truck staffing was 4.1, and average per alarm was 9.2. Some of these things you've already touched on. One of the things, the flashover training that's set up for October 17th and 18th. Right now we have 17 members signed up from YSGIL. William's going to, there's some of the guys here, so once we get those numbers, we get the applications filled out. I'll give you a total of how many, and what we'd like to do is district training for district firefighters, so we can take that out of our training budget towards that. Take care of that. As soon as I get the numbers, I'll get that to you. I think it's about $100, $125 a person for it. We're trying to get our numbers in quick so that we get first preference on the times that we want to take and do. State fire chiefs, I told you before, they're promoting this, so that takes a lot off of our shoulders, and it's being promoted out through the rest of the county. So we're trying to get our numbers in first. Fiscals for Lionsfield Fire Department, first round of fiscals will be tomorrow night from 3:30 to 7:30, right down here at Community Care. Right now, I have 16 spots, which I have 13 filled. Hopefully, a few more take fill up the rest of them. The next one will be on Tuesday, August 18th, and that'll be from 3:30 to 7:30. And I've made arrangements with them also to take in, they'll do daytime physicals for anybody that needs it. All they have to do is just call and make an appointment. That's available. The dick's been installed on 426, the new one that we purchased, so that's all set. Dave found out what he believes to be the problem with the caps on 426. He believes it's the manifold between switching from A to B. Looking to find out, see if he can get the parts or be able to find something that we can take and fix it. He says, Hell pretty much gave up on that system shortly after all the problems they had. So he's working on that, and he's not going to tear anything apart until he knows we can get them parts and have them in hand to take and do the work. Rescue 42, we had an air leak this week. One of the bleeder valves was rusted in the open position, so the tanks will bleed now. We'll be able to hold air, so that has been serviced and back all set. Scott and I know Brian's going to probably bring it up. We looked at some of the officer qualifications, and I've been in contact with Brian on some of the things on DFD side. And this month we're going to schedule a meeting where we all can sit down, review it, and hopefully have something to present next month, so that both departments will be ready to go for election. The only other thing that I have is the chief's going to be looking to get together sometime this month or near the end of the month for our final quarter, look at purchases, trading, whatever future plans that we have. So we'll be sitting down and they can do that. And then look at what our needs are going to be for the future for next year. All right, that's all I got.
That's good timing because we start taking a look at the budget, second half of August usually. All right, any questions for Chief Mason? All right, thank you, Mark. William, DFD.
Bonnie sent in a report to you guys last week for the June's monthly reports. Car 2, we just got back today for its body work, so I didn't hear anything from Chief Russell in regards to any issues with that. So got that thing back on the road. It took about a week and a half to get the body work all done, set on that. So and thank you to Bob for assisting with that also. Durivage. I guess there's some assistance needed to coordinate getting that down there in Coles. So also I just wanted to bring up the Rescue 42 struts that we bought last month. Were utilized within the first week of purchasing, or first week that we had it. So the crew that used it, utilized it, actually had a good report on it. Then 10-15 seconds it was used and propped up a porch that fell over a story down. Unfortunately, people were on it. So stabilized the scene. We had a good report from the crew saying that it operated well. Also, the iPad that was given to the chiefs so a month or two ago was utilized on the structure fire. It's been utilized in other calls, but I put in my report I would highly recommend that we look into continuing the iPad. It was a very good resource to have on that structure fire. I pulled up the I'm responding. I knew exactly where the fire hydrants were in the neighborhood. I had it sitting in the back of my car. Commissioner Garrett was there also. So it works out well. Also for the inclement weather, which we've been having the storms just this time of year coming through, I have a weather app which I can pull up, see what storms are going to be rolling through, which is fairly nice because we were on a couple accidents where it took maybe an hour or two. We had power lines down. The storms were coming in, so I got to see what we had coming in. So like I said, it's a good resource. I highly recommend we continue with that program. Also, I'm just requesting, since the Chiefs meeting will be coming up probably by the end of the month, see if we can see how much money we have left in our Chiefs budget for the year, just so we know how much we can spend and utilize. I know we spent quite a bit on it. I know we spent quite a bit on the gear and stuff like that. So also, I just have a question in regards to the money for the new 9/7 equipment. I know we have to get new new equipment for 9/7, like a portable generator and a couple other miscellaneous items. I'm inquiring, is that gonna be out of a chief's budget, or is that gonna be out of some other separate budget? So just so myself and Chief Mason can kind of prepare and know where the money's coming from for that.
Do we have an estimate how much?
We're currently compiling the list of items that we need. We know so far we need electric positive power pressure fan, the battery power fan, which for the one on 9/7 ran $2,500 to $3,000 just on that truck alone. I know we're gonna need two gas powered probably generators for the new sevens or whatever one still happens to call their apparatus. And there's a few other things the chiefs, I know Chief Galligan and Captain Sheehan on our end are getting a list together of items that we're putting on the truck, and I know the wine is going in.
We're gonna have both purchases.
It's mostly stuff like hand lights, the fans, the one fan, two generators, and that with the two generators we knew about because we made a conscious decision not to do built on. So we could buy small portable generators to fill that need. And really, you got to remember, we're taking 3 vehicles out of service, so there's lots of portable equipment to fill the compartments on the two.
You know, I was just thinking it might be helpful for Sean,
Yeah.
like if you get a list, it's like 10 grand, you know, to determine.
I think once you factor in hand lights and generators, that's probably 75% of it. I think as a guess.
That and probably hose, but we're gonna figure that out also.
Yeah, we're gonna
Hose
figure
testing
hose.
is gonna be the.
That'll give us what we need to know.
My only other suggestion, we're not getting the apparatus probably next year, right?
Right.
So, I mean, we could, you could get that information together, we could factor that also into the budget. I mean, we could fit it in this year, but if not, we can budget it for next year.
One of my concerns, you know, I'm hoping to get all this stuff obviously by next year, but it's COVID. If it, God forbid, spikes up again, places shut down, you know, how's that gonna affect new equipment coming in also? That's kind of my concern too. You know, that's kind of my future thoughts of how things would be. Yeah, we'll get that list more compiled for you guys. So they're over to you. Also, the last thing I was just kind of looking for was see if we can get our advanced auto account restarted over in Pauling Avenue. The place that we use, I think Wine still goes to
We go out.
Posted Hill, and we go to Napa. And the problem with us with Napa is they close at 7 p.m. Well, our crews start their inspections at 7 p.m. So if they need anything, they can't get anything. And True Value up the road shuts down at 6 or 7. So it's kind of like the crews don't have anywhere to go to pick up merchandise. Advanced Auto, I think, stays open until about 9.
It's just, we had such a historical problem with their billing and just kept running overlapped. And so we encouraged in the past the chiefs to use their credit cards to buy the supplies and advanced auto parts. It just, I mean, we could try to set it up again, but there was continuous problems with the billing. I mean, it goes back to Lisa being here, so.
We got you a credit card number.
Yes. Yeah, we have that.
Would they allow? You know, they allow somebody who's playing his credit card if he wasn't there, anything?
We try that before we try and set up the account again.
I mean, we could try.
We could stop and.
See, the problem is there's still an outstanding balance, but they can't tell me what the outstanding balance is.
So they're not gonna start back
Right,
up.
so it's just, because it goes back to Lisa was here.
There are issues with the billing where, like, we're Z on it, they tie it back to anything.
Right.
I remember this
Yeah.
issue.
So, I mean, we could try again, but in the meantime, maybe utilize a credit card.
Because we had a hairy situation when 9/7 blew our power steering fluid out up at Parker School. Every place was closing. And thank God we got into Walmart just by the skin of our teeth because they were literally closing right as PJ luckily ran in and grabbed some power steering fluid. Otherwise, 9/7 would have had
Literally
to
ran
tow.
over security guard. He tried to stop me. He ran, got run over by a Mack truck.
So you've got your district, he'll try to open it, you got your district credit card.
Yeah, I have it.
And if it's ever an emergency situation like that, even if somebody used their personal credit card, it would get the reimbursement quickly.
So that's all I have for our report.
Right, follow up on the iPads, I was with William at the post, it was interesting to see it being used and everything, and the hydrants and everything, so I think that's good. He kind of has it laying around loose in the car, we had commented that it'd be nice if it was mounted. So Bob, I know, reached out to, Adam's got the other one, right? Adam and William to pick out kind of a reasonably cost holder now to make sure you like it and everything. Then if it works out, we can get something better. I'll just order for you on Amazon. One thing I wanted to suggest to the chiefs and the board regarding the iPads. Right now, those are cellular iPads and we're paying $40 a month just in the cellular bill for it. We barely use any data because they're not probably used that much with cellular service. I emailed our rep to see what it would cost to add a hotspot to your phone. I think it's $10 a month. So we might be better off turning the cellular off, adding the hotspot on your phone. And then that would also give you, so we connect automatically, but it would also give you the ability if you had a laptop or maybe it's a hazmat call and somebody else had their laptop that they could connect and have, Wi-Fi activity.
With the old, when we're talking 2G and 3G, if you connected with a hotspot like that, it disabled the phone. With the new 4G and 5G, it doesn't. So that's not a concern anymore. We do that all the time at work. All of our people use, I can't remember the last time we handed out hotspots. Everybody just uses their phone. We used to have separate hotspots.
Are these iPads capable of doing that?
Yeah, it's just like they were on the internet here.
Just like Wi-Fi here.
It's just, it
I
turns your,
just didn't know for sure because I know.
it turns your,
Yeah,
your
we used
phone,
to do that.
your phone is still a phone, but it's also a hotspot for.
Well, no, I understand how that works. I didn't know that the iPad was capable.
The other reason I wanted to suggest that, so right now, just for the two iPads, that's $960 a year just in cell phone service for those two iPads. And if you do this longer and you decide in the 2021 budget, you want to get iPads for the other chiefs, they're only, I'm looking at one now, the latest Wi-Fi only model is on sale for $279. We could probably swing that and add hotspots to the other ones, but we couldn't swing $6,000 a year cell phone service just for iPads. So, I'll have that switched over unless you have any real,
I just probably need a crash course.
I'll show you.
Oh,
Yeah,
if I could, these iPads are almost 12 years old.
yeah.
You want to consider upgrading certain security issues. I don't know if it's going to upgrade to the newest iOS, and a lot of the apps, like extricate these different apps out there, won't work when you be on a certain iOS level. So you may want to consider replacing, if they're using them, that's awesome. But you may want to consider, it's time, Ray and John were chiefs when we got them. So that's 11, 12 years on that iPad you had.
I'm having issues, I have it charging, and if I'm operating it, if I'm using like the weather app, I start losing battery power, even if I'm.
Probably not, you don't get much.
That's what I was saying, maybe.
Well, why don't we, maybe tonight we could just at least upgrade those two.
Yeah.
They're on sale for $279. You need two nice heavy duty cases, Bob can pick some out. And then really think about if that's something you're gonna put in for your budget, for next year, if we're gonna buy 4 more, we can do that.
We also talked about putting them on the 2 rigs coming in, so you're probably talking about 6 more.
There's with the hotspot.
There you gotta figure out how you're gonna hotspot.
Members would have to
They
have
have-
phones or that'd be different, yeah.
Have to figure out a way for that.
And by the time they come in next year, there could be a different model out,
Yeah.
so. All right, entertain a motion to approve the purchase of 2 new iPads. These are on Amazon, Bob, $279 is the latest model.
With cases.
Yeah, for the $279 each, plus cases.
So
Second, Dave, or Rich and Dave, roll call. Brian.
Aye.
Aye. Rich. Scott.
Aye.
And if you want, it's not like those 2 iPads don't work, so if you want to pass those down to your car too, or if you want to pass yours up to you or whatever, let me know and I'll turn on their hotspots also. Because if, at least it gives them a chance to use it before we buy 6 more. If they say it's a pain in the neck, I'm not gonna deal with it.
Better not now than.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was using it now.
That's good.
All right, so just let me know, I'll make the change on your phone. Mark, what did you end up doing with your cell phone? We're not,
I don't know, we ended up with COVID, and that was the best we talked
all
about.
right, so why don't you, we'll talk afterwards. 'Cause
Okay.
if we're reimbursing you, it'd be better if you put that in periodically rather than one big one at the end of the year. But if you wanna get on the fire district plan, gives us a few more options. We'll talk after the meeting. Let's see. Anything else for William?
Just the only other thing is that we're working on redoing the box alarms, and I've been showing Chief Mason the new box alarms that we're doing, just to get his input on.
Just to both of you, nice job up at Heinz Fire. There with William, everything seemed to run so smoothly, and it's nice seeing a lot of the equipment we buy being used. And I live in the neighborhood, a lot of positive, they felt bad for Maddie, but a lot of positive comments about, the fire department. So, nice job. Thank you. Apparatus and equipment, Dave and Rich.
Why don't you go first?
I'll talk more about it under the needs committee, but very successful trip to Sutphen. Resolved a lot of issues, saw a lot of things, made a couple changes that I'll talk about when we get to the change order. But very, very positive, very overall very successful.
Chief's card, any word on those at all?
No.
We're starting to get a committee together to start looking at the idea of a boat, something, watercraft for the lake. I've got a couple of different things I'm checking on, it'll be a couple of weeks. I asked both chiefs and their assistants to be part of the beginning committee on it. So we'll be meeting sometime towards the end of the month to go over that, to get some ideas. We're looking at from the Argo to some type of boat and everything. So we'll check it all out and take a look at it, but right now the Argo doesn't seem to be as good as we thought it would be. Anything over a 7-inch wave, it sinks. So probably don't want to go that route, but we're looking at it. So we'll be putting that together. On the apparatus, with the 2 trucks or 3 trucks we're getting rid of, with the idea of, should we start looking at maybe selling one off now? Instead of waiting for it to be another year old. That's that was from senior guys at our station, we were talking about it. If we did, which one would we do first? I mean, if we're gonna try to get money back out of them, if there's issues going on with the trucks, and we get them fixed and whatever else, maybe it's time to do it before we break it
So,
again.
rather than throw money into, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but are you saying rather than throw money into 426's phone system, we pedal?
It's an idea. I mean, I've heard it from both sides, from 427 or 426. But that way there, when we do get something in, we'll only have 2 to sell. But right now we have.
The only negative I see on it is if we sold 426, now we're betting all bets on the 2 oldest pieces in the district. Right. And if we have a maintenance problem with one of them between now and the time the 2 new ones come.
Well, I look at the idea,
Less likely you want to put money into that,
Yeah.
as you would for.
I wouldn't want to put money into either of the
6
sevens.
you would, because it's still.
But 7 is the one I would think that if we're gonna do something early, this is that one. That's the plan.
Like I said.
I wouldn't want to take, I would want that to come as a recommendation from the Winesville chiefs.
Yeah.
And the officers, and say, hey, come back, if they say they can do away with it, get away without it. Look at manpower, look at utilization, look at manpower. If they say they can get away without it, then yeah, we could probably. I've still got a vendor that calls me on, I won't say a monthly basis, but probably every 2 months, he gets a hold of me about, hey, you're gonna sell those trucks.
Well, it's just an idea.
Terry?
The estimated value is over 100,000, you gotta go to mandatory referendum to get rid of those. Any one of those. So
I would think that 7 probably won't be, but the other ones might be.
It's 6.
Might be.
I don't know.
I would think 6 would be able to get close to
I
that.
don't know. You look at Clinton Heights' ladder.
Something nice as ladder is a total different market.
I know, but it's
It has nothing to do with
down to
color.
$39,000 on it.
Yeah, it has no pumps on it,
Yeah,
and it's a ladder. It's not the color.
I know what, I know what used apparatus is going for, yeah. We'll have to take a look at 6 when the time comes.
Does it hurt between now and the August meeting, at least contact some vendors and kind of feel like, hey, if we sell it now, here's what we get. If you wait a year, you might be looking at X, at least you can make more.
And Mark, you can think about it with your chiefs and see what you think, but I mean, at the end of the day, either next month or 15 months from now, it's gonna go away. So it's not like we're gaining any ground.
So now I'm talking, what do you think? I know some of the guys want to keep it.
Well,
I don't want to-
There's a
I don't-
lot of resistance
two guys.
to selling.
I'm curious more, but
What's that?
There's been a lot of resistance on our side to selling 427 period. Been a lot of pushback. Actually, Mark will tell you more so by the officers. You know, they feel we should keep it. That's their thought process. So they're probably going to come back and
and the way the
Say
new ones
not.
are designed, we wouldn't be able to fit it in the station anyways.
yeah, we couldn't fit it behind the new one, regardless. The short truck is 6.
Right.
Not 7. Right now, you got to put a room to walk between the 2 bumpers as it is, so it's not really an option. But I think overall, you know, what we heard, the feeling was that they didn't want to get rid of 7. So, but it's gonna go.
Well, they want to get rid of 7, but replace it with a new 7 and keep the
Right.
6.
The truck committee studied this extensively for the last 2 years, right?
Yeah, that's in the apparatus plan is very laid out.
I mean, if we had, to me, if we had the manpower and we were having the call volume and we were having an issue with not having enough vehicles, I would certainly look at that. But
We originally discussed bringing Rescue 4.2 over here, all right? Running 2 engine tankers over there in the truck and the rescue, the 2 engine tankers over here. And that's when the Winesco members of the truck committee came back and said, look at Rescue 4.2, the way it's laid out, it works very, very well for us. It's only a couple hundred gallons under what you're calling an engine tanker. With the hydrants that we have now, we can make do with that being our engine rescue. And okay, and then, you know, and we're very, are you guys sure? And they were adamantly sure, yep, we can do that. Okay, and that's the whole idea was to get the fleet down to a manageable number of 3 full-size pieces on each side of town.
And we are in agreement with that.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm just saying what to expect back when you
Actually go to execute it.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is very disheartening in some ways, because before the apparatus committee was made, there's the apparatus needs committee, which each department had representation on. And the wine skill proposal to the district at the time was to get rid of it. So what they wanted, it's kind of
It
disappointing.
really depends on who you're talking to.
Well, yeah, you know.
In what venue, under, you know, what circumstances. You're talking to a bunch of officers of the line officers meeting, or you're talking to some of the membership at a general meeting, or you're talking to the guys that are at the bar on Friday night. You know,
Yeah, no,
it really
it's just-
it depends on
I
who you're
kind of
talking to.
think that ship is already sailed. I mean, I kind of think the ship's already sailed.
Yeah, the chips
We've been planning
are
for-
set.
We've been planning for 2 years
I just don't want to contact one of the vendors until we've got a firmer plan on what we're gonna do. Because once I call one of them and say, hey, we're getting close to, and they're gonna be every week calling me, where are you with it? We can look at it, what are you doing with it? And we just don't need that, you know, Bob doesn't need those phone calls here, we don't need them showing up on our doorstep. We happen to be in the neighborhood, you know, kind of thing.
all I'm looking at is at the end of the day, we're gonna end up having
So,
2 brand new trucks sitting here and 3 trucks ready to go.
So if they come back, the Winesco chiefs and the officers come back with a recommendation saying, you know, we got 3 we're getting rid of, let's get rid of one now, and we suggest this one, we can act, I would think we could act on that.
We've all seen the movie where you're waiting to the end. Yeah, and then the new one gets here.
And you're gonna sit
1 or 2 are
for
sitting
months.
up in Delaney's barn.
Then we're having a
And then when you go to sell them, they
They're worthless.
have numerous problems as you would.
Because they sat in the bar.
Because
for
we
6
kind of
months.
wait till we're so close to the new piece
Yeah,
coming in, that's why we thought of.
That's not a bad idea.
One, you know,
I
one.
don't think we
It's
need to
not
have
a bad idea.
a major discussion in a straw poll.
But tell us which one.
One of the concerns they got is 427 is a much easier truck if you have to take the draft order. You have to take and use 426 or risk of 42. Everything is up in the court, so you gotta take in, you climb all the way up and be able to pull them out.
Yep.
That's off the back end of the truck where.
So for the,
427, it's midship, it's easy to take in.
for the two times,
down.
for the 2 times that we might have to do that between now and next summer, we gotta make a decision which truck are we gonna keep around.
We're rarely gonna have to do that.
So I said, for the 2 times we might have to do it between now and next
And you
summer.
gotta take into consideration how many people are bringing this up.
Oh, I know, I'm just saying, that was one of the things that they.
Six.
Mark, what's your opinion as the chief, not necessarily taking the pulse, but just your professional recommendation, what would it be?
That's reasonable.
I mean, 427, I mean, if we were going 1 for 1, 427 would be probably a keeper. The only thing is, as Scott said, we don't have any room for it. I don't know where we would be
No, you
able
can
to
sell
sell
it
it.
right now.
But
No, we're
that's
just.
the problem. Either way we look at it, we're gonna have a problem.
I think Dave's question is, if we're gonna sell one
We're
tomorrow,
gonna sell
which one
one,
would it be?
would you
Sooner
sell
than later.
7 now or not? Because either now or 15 months or 14 months from now.
I would say, it's kind of hard to say. 426.
I would tend to keep 6,
Yeah.
only because
42, it's a lot.
Again, if we gotta put a little time out of ours, if we gotta put a little money into 6.
427 is 10 years older. It's already 22, 23 years old. If it breaks down, pretty much not gonna cost you a lot more, I think, to take and fix it.
Well, the biggest fear, if you got rid of 6 and you kept 7, and you did have a major problem, we'd be in a bind because we wouldn't want to put money into that major problem.
At this point, there's probably 6, 1/2 dozen, the other 7 would probably be the older choice, just take them go.
Like I say, you guys discuss it, come back with a recommendation. Come back with a recommendation. And if the recommendation is 6, and we find out that it is worth more than 100,000, then we gotta factor that, what Terry gave us for information.
Right.
Into how we process it.
Dave?
I don't think we need to go back and forth with more discussions on it. We're going to sell it no matter what in 14 months or whatever time it takes to get the new ones in. And I think the older truck is probably the one you want to move along. Money's money on it, and if we get an extra 5,000 for it now versus a year from now, we're still gonna have 2 other trucks we're gonna sell, which will keep us busy enough. It's already been done.
So
You're asking for more opinions on not doing it.
So you're saying we should just go ahead and sell it?
I would say, I would make that recommendation.
Or take the month now, and you can solicit quotes or whatever,
Yeah,
value.
yes, get the information on to see what it's worth, what we can do for it, and just the one truck. And that way there, we know that we're.
I have no opinion, other than I wanna make sure I've got everybody else's opinions. Because I don't ride out of that station, I've never operated either
If
of
they
those
come back with the opinion, they don't wanna get rid of it at all, we're gonna switch.
Pardon?
If they decide that they don't wanna get rid of it.
That's not an option. We're
You
getting,
can't switch because that's the apparatus.
That's what I'm saying.
No, see, it sounds like you
And
can't
that's not an
switch
option either way.
because the length of the new apparatus more
you
complicated.
can't, you know,
It's too late, but what I'm saying is that.
William wants to keep 9.7 because he loves the truck.
He can
What
park
you
in
know
his
is that you're not
driveway.
gonna be able to keep
But
the
he
truck.
can bid on it.
Well, the longer you have it sitting here, every time it pulls out the road, somebody could hit it, somebody could, so it's.
Well, the other thing too is it doesn't hurt to look at selling them now because if you don't, now we get to the point that the 2 new ones come in, where are you putting these pieces?
Exactly.
If they're not sold, so that's 3 fire trucks we gotta find storage for if you wait till the last minute.
That's.
Like I
That's
said,
a lot of fire
this-
trucks.
this suggestion came from some senior guys at the station, and I thought it was a good idea. And at the end of the day, it's gonna happen no matter
It's not a
what.
bad idea.
I
All right,
would
well,
suggest.
You put together a kind of a fact sheet of listing what the attributes of 7 are. I'll start to reach out and see what we can come back with. You know, I'll talk to Phil, I'll talk to some of the others, I'll talk to some of the guys that buy used trucks. And see what people can come up with. I don't wanna advertise it, you know, like, hey, anybody wanna buy this, because I think we're not ready for that yet. Let's see.
get a word from somebody, hey, I really wanna buy it. We
Plus-
just make a little.
Yeah, plus having the estimates probably helps show
Special
up.
meeting. Send it down to Argentina, like,
And as Terry said, though, that, if it goes for over 100,000, we have to go to mandatory referendum, so it'd be nice if we could maybe, you know, get ahead of this.
Yeah.
Pass the resolutions, and even if we don't sell them for over 100,000, have them on the ballot ahead of time, could we do that? So that on December's ballot, I mean, we don't know what we're gonna sell them for, but if we do get more than 100,000, we already have that mandatory referendum done in any election.
Well, we know that the 2 sevens are not gonna be over $100,000. But the 426 maybe, so we should probably proceed. Let me talk to Phil and see what he can, if he you know, he doesn't know much about 426, but I think, well, if he looks at it and says, you ain't gotta worry about getting $100,000 for this, then that makes that problem go away. Okay, well, I'll do that.
Just want to make sure we have our ducks in a row.
okay,
Your first reviews.
all right. So Rich is going to,
Work with Phil.
get some prices, Dave's gonna
Get a data sheet together, Mark,
put a
post
plan
it
on,
and everything else.
formally approving it to be for sale for August meeting. If something hot comes up before then, let us know, we'll hold a special meeting. All right, building and grounds, Dave and Brian and Bob, has got something right here. So who wants to go first?
The building, the only thing that I had was, I talked with Bob a little bit about it, before the meeting here, was the, air filter systems that we have. Is this something that, with all these new fancy filters that they're putting in buildings, is this something that we should look at?
Probably should.
But I don't know, as much about it, what we have and what we don't have. The members are meeting in the smaller rooms doing their thing, so, and I'm not sure when the last time they were changed. Is this something that we can schedule for the next time in order to get the super?
Can you look into that, Bob? I think it's MERV 13 or higher. It's
Yeah.
not like you can even open a window around here to get some
Yeah,
fresh air.
Scott from Johnson Control had some information on that, but what I can do is get, you know, an actual official quote from Johnson of what would be best for the various facilities in the rooms where it's more public assembly rooms, where there'd be larger amounts of people. So I'll
When do we change about it? Yearly or is it?
we change it twice a year. We do it in the spring and in the fall. And we did ours like, you know, month and a
Like
half.
those small offices, you get 2 or 3 people there. Even if it's not required, it might be the right thing to do.
Just an idea of it. Other than that, until we get past a lot of this stuff, we'll start worrying about the bathrooms, and Joey's been involved in taking care of some stuff. They did have a problem with the electric wheel, and that was taken care of.
Yeah. But what happened, he got caught in the truck and pulled the wire out of the reel, so Joey tested the wire's fine, put it back up, pop it back in the hole, put the wire back up. And we're good to go.
Chief took care of the issue of loading from the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not supposed to be going in and out. Everything is on the right side. The line officers are supposed to be there by the door checking them as they come in, make sure they're all closed. So we reinforce that.
All I have on building.
I just want to add, I want to thank President, well, he's got his hand up too, but President Fact has been doing it for those who aren't, pretty much everybody here is aware, but he's been doing a lot of work around the station for us. And, much appreciated.
Working harder now than you did before.
No, it's, when I work around here, it's Puerto Rico. Can I make a comment about the filters? I'm an ex-HVAC, and most people in the room know I ran the county facility in the jail. I would strongly recommend that you don't look into 11, 12, 13 filters. I would look at maybe a Mark 8 or 9. It's a thicker filter. From what I remember, we have to be very cautious of the 11, 12, 13 because of the amount of particulate they'll catch. They can be classified as biohazards because they'll get skin cells and stuff like that. To recommend the 13, 12, 12, 13s for those areas because of the high traffic lines. But I haven't heard anybody yet saying, hey, by the way, red flag, for the Marvates, or will be good enough for what we're doing around here, and get better filtration, but they will wind up being a hazard. That's my opinion only, it's a recommendation as a ex-HVAC guy. That's all I want to say.
You're gonna check with Johnson Controls, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you, PJ.
Yeah.
I think you take his input, Johnson Controls, whatever, you know, the state recommends, CDC, and
Mhm.
go from there. Anything else on building?
Yeah, one quick thing. We did receive our planned service proposal from Johnson Controls. It's a 3-year contract. I'm in the process of getting a quote from Chris Foley. I spoke to Brian and Dave about this. I don't know if Chris Foley really is going to actually be able to service the entire PM in the fashion that we have on our scope and our specification because of the various controls we have that Chris Foley may not be able to service. But I wanted to try and have some type of comparison to provide to the board because, you know, it's a large expense every year. My feeling is that, you know, the recommendation would probably be to go to Johnson Control again, but until I get that proposal next month, we should have something for you to look at. And it's about an 8% increase, 7 to 8% increase from the previous year, which really is not that bad actually, because we had a pretty good rate to start with for what they do. That's it.
Before we go to district personnel, is one other thing I thought of with apparatus and equipment, when Dave brought up the boat. Dave and I did have a conversation on the phone the other day, and I just suggested to him, even if he could get us a rough dollar figure for next month, ballpark, just so as we budget.
That's why I wanted to kind of meet up with the chiefs and stuff and a couple of the things we're looking at.
So that's all. District personnel. I don't have anything. Brian, do you?
Just for the officer qualification work, but otherwise, no.
All right. Finance, insurance, long-range planning, and audit. Myself and Scott. Sean, I know you signed some paperwork there related to that.
We did get the final audit report. Should be a copy of that in your Dropbox. Anyway, on page 2, this is, I guess, the most significant paragraph. In our opinion, the regulatory basis financial statements referred to present fairly in all material respect and respective financial position of the North Greenbush Fire District Number 1 governmental and fiduciary fund types and account groups as of December 31st, 2019, and respective changes in financial position of the general fund and capital projects fund for the year that ended in accordance with the financial reporting provisions in the New York State Office of the State Controllers as described in note number 1. So basically, we got a clean bill of health.
Thank you, Sean, for your great work.
Couldn't do it without Bob, that's for sure.
You guys
It
make
makes my life so easy.
you guys make us look good.
That's not hard to do.
All right, that's right. Anything else?
Can I get a motion
We
Just a motion to accept the final audit.
motion to accept the final audit. I'll make it.
Second.
Second by Dave. Also in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Nice job. Policies, procedures, and membership. Did we vote on these folks already? I don't think we did.
You did.
Did we? All right. We're ready to vote on that. Anything for policies, procedures, and membership? Dave, you were working on.
Yes, after we had the damage and the personal injury on the fire over on this side, we started looking at the idea of when something happens to someone and they get hurt, and we do some type of investigation. It's not to crucify anybody, but it's to look at our mistakes, if we made mistakes or what good, what bad we did. I've looked at a lot of different versions of it. And a lot of the stuff that we have, I'm wondering if Terry's got more resources to put something together instead of coming from one commissioner versus other commissioners. I don't want to make it I'm trying to beat up one side versus the other side stuff. If there's some type of a review board that you've seen that we can do something with to add to our incident report type of thing that we have now. If somebody hits a mailbox, we've got a full-blown investigation. My goal is to not point fingers, but it's to turn around and say, look, if we did this, and we did this, maybe we should have done something different, or maybe we did everything right. It just happens.
Okay, but I don't know if I'm reading you right or not, but I know DeFriesel for years that it was appointed pre anything happening. There was an accident review board. So that if there was an accident of some type, the people that were on the accident review board automatically knew that they were, it was no, you know, it wasn't like, it was like, oh, Danny had an accident, so we're gonna get Scott and Sean and.
No, we have that.
We have a district version.
No, we do. We have that district-wide, but it's for an accident with a vehicle. He's talking.
But I think maybe we expand the scope.
Exactly, that's why I want to try to put it into one thing. And then come up with a committee every year that gets put on it, and they can look at stuff and the evidence, and it covers not just only what we did or good or bad or indifferent, but maybe what needs to be done to help that.
A big part of what I did for the last 10 years of work, last 8 of the 10 last years, had to do with after action reports. And one of the big things that we try to drive home there is that there's no lessons learned unless there's a corrective action from something bad happening. So you're talking about exactly that, which I'm fully, completely supportive of. And as long as it's not punitive, as long as there's a system to, you know, hey, we should be critiquing everything and saying, okay, guys did a great job, but what could we have done better? What piece of training would have helped? What having somebody to plug in there would have helped? What piece of equipment might have helped? What getting French out of the way might have helped? You know, I mean, whatever, you know, I mean, and you do that in a non-punitive way and figure out what could have done to make it better. That's exactly, you know, we should be doing that. I mean, I give young Shan, Danny Shan, one of the lieutenants over here in DeFriesel, before William even had a chance to put away the paperwork, and he was still doing the paperwork. Danny huddled everybody after that deck collapse on a holiday weekend, a hot day. Everybody had been working in the sun. Everybody wanted to get back home to do whatever it was they were doing home. And Danny held everybody there for about 20 minutes and ran a hot wash and quick critique. And that's exactly what, you know, I mean, and a lot of good came out of that discussion. A lot of good came out of that discussion.
I agree on 90% of the calls can be done like that, but I'm talking when we have personal injury, people transported, equipment damaged in thousands of dollars. There should be something more than your standard critique, you know, and I don't know exactly how to put it without, I don't want to offend anybody, but I just think that it's something that we should have in place.
Well, there's another component to this too, and that's in the EMS world, they call it QA/QI, which is all privileged, all right? Which means it doesn't get disseminated to third parties via subpoena, via FOIL, via anything. What I've seen in industry, I'm talking big industry like the ones down the road, and in some public sector arenas, is they get very aggressive and very zealous at doing this, and it's one of these, okay? Particularly with third-party liability cases. So, not that I need more work, but you should also factor in that if the gravity of the situation is such, it ought to be cloaked in privilege, as opposed to, I mean, it's a noble mission that Rich is talking about, but by the same token, you don't need to do this. Right. Those people who are watching, they can't see. Yeah, I mean, you have a very thorough accident investigation report, because I've seen them for the, you know, back in the old cable van or whatever, you know, and it went on for pages, you know. So you build off that, but and the whole after action plan is a great idea. If it involves personal injury or it involves injury or significant property damage to someone outside of the fire department, then you need to take a look at it with the perspective I've given you, that, thank you very much, I've just done this, you know, here's this report, Mr. Plaintiff's lawyer, and okay, here's our check, and the amount of, because we've just done that, so.
Well, that's why I kind of wanted your expertise, because I don't want to go too far and I don't want to not do something.
You're spot on, you're in what you want to do, it's just that in the EMS arena, it's protected. In the public sector arena, it's not, if it's not done right. So, but yeah, I mean, I think you've got a great basis for it based upon what you have as your core, you know, accident investigation group or committee or whatever that you do. And yeah, that can be given some steroids to do for personal injury stuff. But when you get into personal injury, and again, personal injury outside as well, you need to go another couple of steps to make certain that you don't, that your zealousness in remedying the mistake doesn't create an impossible path to walk back from.
All right. Okay, else? All right, LoSAP, Scott Kennedy and Brian.
Had a couple senior members inquire where they're about their entitlement checks, which they had received. I talked to Sean about it, he talked to Ed, and apparently because of the employment problems with the COVID and whatever, they were delayed getting them out. They were supposed to go out, I guess, towards the end of June. Some of them haven't received them yet, so we're still kind of waiting to see what happens there. Frankie got something interesting, which Sean is going to look into, and it's something about, that said something about ending his employment or something like that, termination of employment. So we gotta check on that, along with the fact that, you know, they're supposed to go out long before the end of June, then they're going at the end of June and still no one's got them. So anyway, we're kind of monitoring that. The other thing is the governor signed that retroactive LoSAP. I'm sure everybody's aware of that. I spoke to Mark about that, drill credits, and he was going to speak
How's that work
He was
out?
going to speak to William about that.
Everybody's kind of jumped to you have to have a resolution in place by April, which is way too late for your LoSAP, by the way. So I'm going to recommend that you do something in the next couple of months if you want to do this. But essentially, there were two plans for two provisions, one for calls, one for events, drills, meetings, etc. That got shot down. It ended up with the 5 points a month for essentially everything, which is essentially just events, meetings, whatnot. The requirement that you have to have, and I think you guys already have in place, are special COVID policies, or special, I think they use the word special policies in place for, you know, we didn't have drills in March, we didn't have drills in April, whatever it was. You need to write that factoids or those factoids down. So those were your policies. Then you can give up to 5 points a month, prorated for less than the full, 30, 31 days a month. The board can agree to do that and then award. So we started March 7th, I believe, was the date of the governor's declaration. So you could get a maximum of 4 points for March, 5 for April, 5 for May, 5 for June. And then this is going to carry on through whenever this ends, which supposedly is September, but it could be extended. That doesn't address call response. All right, and that's something you got to bear in mind, that if you also had policies in place or want to put policies in place for call response, that, old guys like me who are almost 60, shouldn't respond, or if you're in the risk group, you shouldn't respond, or you have abbreviated response, then you need to articulate, write down what those policies are too. Some places just said, well, guys, don't respond. Okay, I don't know what your procedure is, if you have one or if you want to have one, but because you can still, without the governor's without this new legislation, you could still tailor that response to say, hey, I'm a senior firefighter. I've been told not to respond. The call comes in and I acknowledge either through IAR or an email to a mailbox that I'm available to, or I was available to respond and get credit for the call. I mean, you could still, because if this thing goes on longer than September, you'll be able to accumulate enough points just with the 5 bonus points for the stuff you missed. However, if it doesn't, and people's call volumes could be seriously hurt, if they didn't respond to calls or cut the responses down between March and September, you might not get the 10% of the calls, and if you don't, you won't get the 25 points, so you don't get to the 50-point marker. You can never get there if this thing ends, But anyway, so let me go back to how some places are doing the 5-point bonus. You'll have to enact a resolution. You'll have to have before that written down what your policies were for response. And then there's 2 schools of thought. One is that you award these points as you go. So like we get to the end of July, or get to the end of August, let's say you've approved this, and you spot the people the 5 points for the prior months. The alternative theory, which I think is a better one, is you just keep doing points the way you do. You get to December, you look and see where people are, and some people may not need the 5 bonus points, or they may need only 5, but they've got a bank of them from March till September. Okay, this guy's 4 points short of getting this 50. Okay, here we'll give him this 5 from June. And then do it that way so that you basically just use them as you need. You can award them, but you don't have to track them until you get to the end of the year, which to me is much easier to do and it doesn't disturb your whole point tracking system, and it doesn't really screw anybody over because they can see how they're doing, but in terms of their points, and then say, wait a minute, I'm going to do 5 points for April, 5 for May, and I've got my 50 points now, or if and it also doesn't give them this false sense that they're sitting pretty if they haven't been to a call since February either. I mean, you need to kind of approach this 2-pronged thing. I would tell if you're inclined to pass it, I think you should. You probably have to do the max, which is 5 points a month prorated, knowing that you've got 4 for March, 5 for April, 5 for May, 5 for June, 5 for July, probably 5 for August, and then. Since we are at the halfway point of the year, people should be encouraged to take a look at their low SAP call response, see if they're on track for that 10%. Now here you do that funky thing with rescue calls too, right? So maybe it's not, it could create some issues for some people. They didn't ever run any calls, but it's not anticipated that you're going to be able to get 50 points. In fact, I think it's mathematically impossible to get 50 points just on the governor's bonus points, because you would only be able to get 10 months, but the first month is only going to be 4 points, so you could end up with 49 points if you don't do anything, So
If it goes to December.
If it goes that long. So, but I mean, I think the way to use it is my recommendation is continue doing what you're doing. You're still running calls. People are still showing up. You're still going on. Don't alter your system now. If you feel the need after you pass a resolution to want to throw those points on, great. But I think the easier thing to do is wait till we get through this a little bit farther and say, these people probably aren't going to make it. They've got a bank of, tell them you got a bank of, 25 points for the last 5 months or whatever. They'll get. And you also don't want to discourage people from showing up at the end of the year too. October, November, December, we still got calls to run. So,
Terry, the one thing that crosses my mind on it is that I think we need to reassure people that we will act on this again appropriately at the end of the year. We're not going to just, nobody really needs it, and we'll see what it looks like in December, and have somebody scared that 75 or 80% of the people are going to make it. I'm not, so they're not going to do anything for me. So I think we got to make sure people realize that, if people are short at the end of the year, yes, we're going to look at this, we're going to act on it, we're going to take appropriate action, but we're not just going to start handing out points now like the ice cream truck coming up.
I think to your point, I think you need to, it may be August to be the appropriate time, adopt the resolution to say you're gonna do it. But then not drastically, and explain to people, hey, you got, based upon what we know right now, you got 4 points for March, 5 for May, 5 for June. Yeah, and we're, you know, put those in the bank. They're not gonna show up on your record.
And the resolution shows that we're gonna take people back.
Yeah, but waiting till March is ridiculous because you got your point totals in before that, anyway, or April. I mean, it just shows how attuned the governor's office is and the legislation is to the deadlines we have. So, but I have another place that's now we're gonna start issuing them right on so everybody knows. I'm like, okay, fine, you know, if that's what you wanna do, but they have to alter the way they input their points too. Create a new category and it's 5 bonus points at the end of every month. And there's really not any discretion. I mean, you know, this was our policy and you get the 5 and because we didn't have drills, we didn't have meetings, you get 5 for that. And in the places that have the larger volume calls, that whole call thing needs to be addressed separately and the district has to modify their response policy. I don't think that's gonna be necessary here, but you know, you also don't, like I said, you also don't want to get to the end of the year. Well, I got my 50 points in August, counting all these bonus points. I don't have to do anything. You know, you still have to show up for, you know, when you have your drills or your online drill. But I'll have a resolution for you for August. If you can have, you know, I'll talk to Bob, but whatever guidelines you put out to kind of coordinate your response during this time period, those need to be crafted into. Those need to be those special policies that you rely upon to award the 5.
Terry, the policies that we might put in place, and our response and everything we're doing in the station with that.
That's exactly what I'm looking for. Yeah.
We've got that, all we have to do is spread it out.
It said there's no drills, all right? You had no drills for a period?
No drills, the only thing we respond to was alarm.
Okay, yeah, so that.
The stations were closed down.
We've had just 2 drills since in the last couple of weeks, that's it. We just started drills.
We just started going back.
I'll send you. I have them all.
Okay.
Actually, in March.
But if there was also other stuff done with respect to call response, that ought to be, you ought to take a look at that too.
All right. Moving on to officer qualifications. Brian, Scott.
Assistant Chief Russell kind of recreated the document he had put forth about 3-4 years ago. I sent out to the 2 chiefs. My apologies, Scott. I gave them a physical hard copy of it. Basically, it's just a baseline start. I got feedback from Chief Burkhardt and Chief Mason. They're okay with what's kind of down there on paper right now. So the next step would be sometime this month, Scott and myself will be with the 2 chiefs, and I'm going to bring a couple of designees along with them to kind of go and kind of firm this up. The goal being getting something in place that's standardized district-wide. Also, some kind of timely manner for elections that are coming up. And, you know, the other thing too is just reiterate, it's not punitive. There will be like a grandfathering type clause, so it's not going to preclude anybody who's currently in a position from continuing their position. Because obviously it's something new, you got to be reasonable about the time frame to let people get caught up if they're missing a class here and there. So if you're a captain now, you know, there might be a 1-year timeline to get caught up if you're missing certain classes. Obviously, that's dependent on state fire and the outreach programs and stuff like that, and how often, you know, they offer these classes, which can be taken into consideration. So the idea would be the chiefs, Scott will sit down, you know, tweak if necessary, and then have something put in front of that. Hopefully, we can act on in August to get out in front of the membership in time.
Give me plenty of time to take it back, just
And again, not punitive. And if you're a captain now, you can still run for captain next year. You know, obviously the companies might have the ability to make it more restricted, but that's what we'd rather have that hashed out up front. So it's not like an October surprise. You know, we're not moving the goal line because we don't like somebody who's running. Just make sure there's a good set of rules down there that get followed going forward. So, Scott, you guys get that, but that seems like a reasonable goal.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. Special committees, business operations and technology, we already talked about the iPads, upgrade to QuickBooks. Sean?
I just want to upgrade the, I'm reusing 2017 edition, so I want to upgrade to the 2020 or 2021 that's coming out. And it's $299.99.
Entertain resolution, upgrade QuickBooks for $300. So Brian, second by Dave. Roll call.
Brian? Aye. Dave? Aye. Dan?
Aye.
Rich? Aye. Scott?
Aye.
Do you need training on that at all?
I might need it.
Otherwise, they go out like that.
Scott, you got anything else for technology or
No.
Bob or Sean? Development plan review, Brian and Scott.
I haven't seen anything new on.
Just what we looked at the last time, and then you were gonna take some of the plans with you and look those over to see if you,
Yeah, those are
So
the
any
four
problems?
items we sent out. There's been nothing new. Like I said, it's been brought in front of us.
no,
I know there might be some stuff coming down the pipeline, but beyond that, water line's delayed coming down 43, mainly because there's a few holdouts and easement issues, people not wanting to give them up or whatever, and, just again, Route 4 is starting out, it's my understanding.
August 1st. August 1st is
Yep,
what?
and, that's the traffic circle and stuff. And
You know,
obviously,
we're
they're
gonna
working.
start down at that, but circle.
That's my understanding,
Traffic
yes.
circle,
no, I mean, while they're doing.
it's gonna be a mess, it's gonna be a cluster.
And obviously, the Whiteview Road project, really paving into the sidewalks and stuff.
Yeah, the Whiteview started, they're already over, all the way over to Mayfair, with the curb cuts for the sidewalks and stuff. I don't know, Joe Hogan just said that the bids still aren't out for Route 4 yet. They still haven't been handled yet, so.
Yeah, I thought I heard from
We were told the other day, I was in a meeting the other day, the town engineer said August 1st.
I guess Reichenberg told today that
How long is the time to,
You
once
would-
it starts? What do they say?
They're usually 30 days out ahead, so.
I mean, once they start, how long will like finish the year?
Oh, no, it's not gonna take a year, no. It's probably a 4 to 6 month project.
For winter.
Yeah, they had planned to start in March and just done September, October, the majority of the work, then do like touch up spring of 21, that was the original timeline, so it's about 6 months.
All right, fire medic operations, Rich and Dave.
The only thing I got on that is, it's kind of interesting. I had a longtime member of one of the 2 fire companies from the town of East Greenwich. There was a Matty Hines fire come up to me and we were chatting, and he commented about looking, watching around, and he said something to the effect of, "Boy, you guys really work really like one department." Well, wine skills, like one department watching you guys work. I said, "Yeah, it's gotten really good. The guys are good. You know, they came up, they pulled the line off our truck rather than trying to drag one off of theirs from half a mile away, and it works really well." And we talked a little bit more, and then as he walked away, he kind of muttered something to the effect of, "Man, and he would, you know, I won't say which department he mentioned, but it's just, I wish we could work that well with the other company from the town of East Greenwich that was at the scene." So I think that's a good compliment that the chiefs and the officers should take, and came from somebody who knows the fire service too. So it wasn't just an offhand remark. It was a well-earned comment. And I noticed it. I had noticed it too. That, you know, a couple of the guys there were really just busting their ass the whole time. Didn't matter if you're putting hose on. It didn't matter what they were doing. Everybody worked really, really well.
Good. You know, we're 10 years into this, and I mean, everybody did their part. Hats off to Brian and Ed McMahon. I think it's really a lot under you two and now Mark and William. You guys are really carrying it on, so it's all appreciated very much. Apparatus needs, Rich and Dave.
Yeah, I'm just bringing up my email here so I can go into this a little bit. So I said before, we did the pre-construction with Sutphen, incredibly productive meeting. We actually went farther into some of the stuff than I thought we were going to, because I thought that we would save things like compartment shelving till the compartments themselves were built so we could see them. But no, they had mock-ups, they had drawings, they had everything they wanted to get into it. So we went right into it, spent an awful lot of time. I can give you the Reader's Digest version of this, or going into the details, but Reader's Digest version of it because the two trucks have similar but not the same price. On the first truck, in the end, the trucks are going to cost the same. But on the first truck with the credits that we had coming, the change orders we wrote, we added an additional $2,957.52. And on the second piece, we added an additional $6,457.51. A lot of the trades were straight up trades where we do this instead of this, and it was dollar for dollar, zero cost. Some of the things were bigger ticket items. Probably the two biggest ticket items was a change that both chiefs wanted on the light bars. After seeing light bars down there and realizing that was changes on the light bars, that was like $1,500 on each rig, I believe. There was a change in the compartment on the cab behind the passenger door on each side. We inspect that as an 80-inch compartment. And I think everybody visualized what 80 inches is. That's an 80-inch door. We pictured what an 80-inch door, yeah, that'll work. But what we weren't thinking is that on a fire truck, an 80-inch door starts at the running board, so that even somebody like Ronnie Monroe would have needed a ladder to get to the top 20 inches or 30 inches of that 80-inch cabinet. So we cut that down, the door down, and did something different on the inside with that space. And I think that wound up being like a $400 credit on each truck. So that gives you an idea of some of the stuff we did. We added some receptacles. This includes all the shelving and pack board, which we thought we were going to have to figure out afterwards. And we thought we were going to have to do up at when it got up to Vandermolen, after it was delivered from Sutphen to Vandermolen. So that's all going to be done factory. So I included all that. The other big dollar change that we approved there is actually COVID. It was driven by COVID. And that's the interior of the cab in the area of the two front facing seats in the jump seats. All that area behind where those people sit and between the two compartments, all that was supposed to be that like padded fabric, upholstery padded type fabric originally. That's pretty standard on a fire truck. Well, we got talking to their engineers. We had a discussion amongst ourselves. I brought up some of the stuff that I had seen at FDIC last year about some of the clean cab technology, and all that fabric pad comes out and it's all being replaced with aluminum. So that we can go in there and we can spray and wipe and clean and go in there with a garden hose if we need to and rinse it off. And it's going to give us a much cleaner cab. That was a good nickel on. I don't remember. I can look up the number for you. But that was probably $1,500, $1,600, $1,800 a truck on each rig for that as a cost. It also, as was pointed out, allows us to mount like hand lights and that kind of stuff. We don't have to worry about where can you screw it into, where can't you. I'm not talking heavyweight stuff. Where can you mount a meter, where can't you? It gives us a lot more options as far as what we do and that kind of stuff. So all in all, I've got change orders that are ready to sign. I did not sign them. I didn't authorize them because I knew we were close enough for this meeting. So I'm going to bring it back to the committee, make sure that bring it back to the board, which the board's comfortable with them. And I'm going to probably have Dan sign as the chairman. And then we'll go from there. But if anybody's got questions on it, there's others. William was on the trip. God, I think Dave didn't go. No, so it's just William and I are the only two. William and I are the only two that are
Ryan,
here.
Rowan, and
Adam, Ronnie and Adam went from Titusville, and then myself, William, Danny Sheehan, and Brandon Gallagher. So it was an outstanding trip. It really was. Really was worth it. One interesting thing I picked up on too is that, and I'll pass this on, is we looked at two rigs down there. One of them kind of had very, very similar cab to ours. So we kept using that as comparison. One had a similar body to what ours was going to be. Not so much, but enough that we could draw comparisons. But the one with the cab close to ours also had its body getting ready to be mounted. We were down there on a Tuesday, right? Yes, it was a Tuesday. It was election day. It was primary day.
Tuesday or Wednesday.
It was primary day, it was a Tuesday. It was primary day. And the following Tuesday or Wednesday, Phil posted a picture of that truck on his general website showing, hey, this is a truck we're building down the factory. And this truck that had been in racks of components that we saw a week before was like 3/4 ready for delivery. I mean, they were lettering it, they were doing final touches on it, and I got an email exchange that says, how the hell did that thing go together so quick? And he says, once they're in the line like that, they're only in the line for 3 or 4 weeks. Because once, they don't go in the line till all the stuff is there for them, and then once they're in the line, and they don't waste any time building. And that was very impressive to see that truck had moved that quickly. We saw a lot of good things, got a lot of good ideas, very comfortable with their, Ronnie's got a good technical idea on that kind of stuff. And I really valued Ronnie's nodding his head and this is really good. They got their shit together here. Those comments, from somebody like Ronnie who understands that stuff was meaningful. So I think it was a good trip.
Do we have a rough idea on the due date?
If I was a betting person, my bet right now would be sitting on Memorial Day. That would be my bet.
If we're saying May-ish.
That would be my bet would be Memorial Day. It would be nice if we had them here for the Memorial Day parade, is what I'm thinking right now. Huh?
If we have one.
If we have a Memorial Day parade, yeah. If we're allowed to. Any questions for me on it? It's and they were all apologetic about the fact that we couldn't have more people down there, that they couldn't do some of the things that they normally do, that, instead of going out and getting something nice to eat, whatever, they brought in some pizzas so we did a working lunch. It's only a little better than 2 hours away, 2 hours and 20 minutes maybe. We made one stop to drain the coffee and refill the coffee. And it's a simple drive. It's easy to get to, right off the interstate. So it's 5 minutes off the interstate. So it's not something that would, it's not like the truck's being built in Wisconsin and only 4 people are going to get a chance to see it during the course of the time it's being built.
No death tubes.
Pardon?
No death tubes.
Any other questions for Rich? Entertain a resolution to approve the change orders. So, Brian, second by Dave. Roll call.
Brian. Aye. Dave. Aye. Dan. Aye. Rich. Aye. Scott. Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution carries. I notice there's 2 pages to sign.
You have to sign them both.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One is for one truck, one is for another
right.
truck.
Yeah,
That's why the numbers are slightly different.
yeah. So we'll disregard that DocuSign and I'll just scan and send
You're
them.
gonna take care
Yeah,
of
I'll take care of all
Great,
that.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else before we get into public session? We got one email from the public, from Dan Wilson. What is the timeline for the fire district meetings to be back open to the public? We don't really have a timeline at this point, but I think over the course of the next month, we should research this with the Department of Health state guidelines and council and come up with a recommendation before the.
I don't know that public meetings have been, there was executive guidance on that from the chamber. I know town hall, they're still not open.
Planning board's not open yet.
Zoning board's not open, town board's not open.
You're going above and beyond right now with what you're doing.
Yeah, I've talked to people that I tell them what we're doing, and they're like, wow, you guys are really going in. Our stuff's happening all in secret. I'm not condoning that. I'm not saying that we should be, but I think we're,
Yeah, so, for now, we'll stay the course, but it's something we're always monitoring and looking at.
I haven't seen anything that indicates any of the restrictions that are in place now are going to be lifted anytime soon. I really haven't. Especially if you monitored the discussion today about schools, some discussion that,
I monitor that.
you monitored that a little bit, Dan? The stuff that fell out as a result of that? And, if we go below, as long as you stay below 5%, you're good. As long as we go above 9%, we're shutting everything back down again. Those are some scary things.
So I don't have a sample of the DeFreeseville fundraising letter tonight.
We're busy doing that.
So, all right, any other comments, questions? Nothing else from the public? Public session,
I don't know
PJ?
if this is public or not, but I heard we're gonna get photo IDs showing that we're members of the Freesboro High School. Is there any movement on that?
We had talked about a machine just before the COVID thing burst.
No,
What happened to that?
The board, the board decided to not go with purchasing a machine, and you're using Linstar as your provider. And I mean, I guess that's going to be up to the board if they're going to roll it out to every firefighter in the district. And they could. I mean, it's like $13 an ID is what it is to have Linstar do it.
The reason I bring it up is because I've been doing some purchasing stuff, for Freesboro. And, I bring over the tax IDs and stuff, they're like, you have an ID showing you're a member of the fire department. It's like, no, we don't have one. Maybe the board could consider the executive committee, I don't know, maybe the president, treasurer, people like that are going out.
Well, I think if we're gonna do it, it would be, we provide them for people that are gonna do purchasing on behalf of the fire district. So if you're, I mean, maybe not all of them.
There are specific criteria that IDs should meet, all right? That credentialing should meet. And one of the first and foremost, goes back to something Bob said about the fact that we're paying for them. One of those credentialing things is they got an expiration date on them. So we're gonna start doing something like this. It's gonna be something that's not gonna be a one-time purchase. It's going to be a regular, it's not, they don't have to be renewed annually. You can issue a 3 or 4 year ID, but you're gonna, it's gonna be a 3 or 4 year ID that people are gonna need to get renewed. And so there's gonna be recurring costs if we start to look at it. And I'm not saying that in an attempt to shut the idea down. I'm just saying in an attempt to prime everybody for the fact that.
Well, I would think if we're gonna issue them, we'd issue them for fire district related business. So some of those folks you mentioned, that might be more appropriate for the fire company if they wanted to issue an ID.
Commissioners and officers or something like that, or commissioners, employees and officers.
Why don't we take a lot? I don't think we're gonna. I think we got the feedback, we can kind of consider it and go from there if anybody's got any thoughts. If we're gonna do it, who would be appropriate, how we're gonna do it, I think it's not something we're gonna decide.
You almost said there's like a issue policy, like with a fob or something, president, like your facto, congratulations, you're now president of Freesboro Company.
Right. Well, I mean,
you're now give it back.
And I think it could also be looked at as a case by case. I mean, we just commented how PJ's doing a lot around the building, to benefit the fire district,
Correct.
To issue 1 or 2 here and there, I don't think is, but before we just blanketly,
Well, that's what I'm asking. I've been flashing my retired Albany County Sheriff ID saying, well, this work is a substitute.
Well, you do have your active member ID.
Yeah, but they're looking
They're
for
looking for
something
photo
with
ID.
a picture on it. Our active member just, it's a piece of paper.
These days, photo IDs have gotten so common that that's what people are wearing.
We did it 25 years ago. Your brother, Danny did it. I don't even recognize myself, but their photo
You were
IDs.
so handsome then.
Yeah. And it's when I look at it, I'm like, man, I guess it has been a long time since we haven't done it at all in the last 25 years. You know what I mean?
Well, even like the commissioner.
It's not necessarily a bad idea.
If you've got a 5-year term, you do it for the 5-year term. And whatever, what I mean?
Is that something that the fire company, like maybe PJ want to make them up for some of his civil officers? Is that something you can give them the contact info if they want?
Still looks like some members.
Get them made up.
Yes.
That's
Yeah, we-
DeFreeseville Fire Department Incorporated.
Yeah, I think, the district has already paid for like the DeFriesel and Weisco, because we did the ones for the fire chiefs. We did the ones for the 3 chiefs. So if the 2 fire companies had a list, no different than one of the chiefs could say, my captain needs one for fire district business, and then the fire district would pick up that one. But I think if it's something where it's going to be, you know, maybe 4 or 5 cards, you know, that's, I can work with the 2 presidents, because we have a form that we use in the district. They could take the pictures, they can send me the form, send me the pictures, they can get billed. So I can coordinate, as long as it doesn't turn into all of a sudden we have 25 people from one company. I can't do that. You know, but if there's the president, the treasurer, another person, because that person does purchasing, that's reasonable. You know, I think that's fair.
All right. Well, I would suggest for right now, it's yourself and the treasurer.
Yeah.
I think that's more than enough.
Why don't you just work with the 2
Okay,
presidents?
I'll work
and
with the 2
chiefs?
presidents. Okay. Yep, and the chiefs, yep.
All right. Anything else for public comment? All right, entertain a motion to adjourn. Rich?
Second.
Ryan? Favor?
Aye.
Nice job. Who's this Jakey bum?
Jesus.
Helmet